Hello and welcome back to Coinscrum Markets. We're here for our Friday wrap, welcoming back Nick Mancini, fresh from Miami, Chief Community Officer at Trade the Chain. Hi Nick, how you doing?
Doing very well this morning. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. You're looking remarkably healthy, given you had 3 or 4 days in Miami last week at the big conference.
Yeah,
Tell us the gossip. What was the news on the street?
So the news on the street from Miami, nothing crazy that we haven't heard of before, but I think just the sheer magnitude of the Bitcoin conference was staggering. And I think it was a market signal that the market is getting bigger than what we can handle, and seeing the sheer amount of retail rub shoulders with the amount of institutional crowd. I mean, you had people like Mr. Wonderful and John and Pete Nigerian and bank CEOs and people like Pomp and Tim Draper and all that rubbing, shoulders and shaking hands with thousands and thousands and thousands of retail. So just seeing everyone in one room, seeing how big things were, definitely makes me bullish and gives me hope on the market.
Yeah, I guess during that last kind of the bull run up to a few months ago, people were saying that retail interest hadn't built as much as it might have done in the previous kind of bubble cycles. Google searches that people often reference haven't reached anywhere near the same peak. So let's see, maybe, I'm never one to push that retail kind of come in too late in the market. But, maybe if that interest is still building, it's one to watch out for. There's been a bit of news generally in the markets this week. I guess some of it came out of the conference. What's caught your attention the most?
Oh my gosh, it's been topsy-turvy this week. So I think the biggest one that, if anyone who's been watching CNBC or just any news outlet, it's that Colonial Pipeline hack and how the Bitcoin was returned. And the big news was, the Bitcoin network was hacked or it was infiltrated or whatever the narrative is. But it ended up just being, so it started off bullish. Hey, the government, it isn't bearish on crypto. Crypto is not just for criminals. Then it was, then we went full bear, because everyone was pushing the narrative that the Bitcoin network was somehow unsecure. And then it came out that they had just acquired the private keys because the hackers were too stupid to use a cold wallet and actually secure their keys properly, which is something that anyone in the Bitcoin network can a mistake they can face. So it ended up going from ugly to not so bad. And I think that really flipped the market on its head. Then we had the El Salvador news. Obviously, I think that was massively bullish, and I don't think many people can point El Salvador out on a map. I think many people can't name the president, but the fact that a sovereign nation has put Bitcoin on their balance sheet and is going to accept it as legal tender is a massively massive step for just the global populace at hand. It's just a big signal. We will see more. They will not be the last. Then we had a bit of some bearish Ethereum news. After JP Morgan comes out and says they're bearish on Bitcoin, Ethereum comes out and says they're going to delay the finalization of ETH 2.0 into late 2022. So this is a big kind of worry for Ethereum, is everything else is going, to plan, but the finalization, basically the last brick that they lay, may not be until late 2022. The market's currently expecting, early 2022 right now. We've been very bullish for a winter storm for ETH, if you will, and that's not going to happen. So a lot of interesting news this week. It looks like bullish for Bitcoin, looks like bearish for Ethereum, but I think we'll have to check out the charts to fully decide.
Yeah, okay, lots to chew on there. Definitely on the El Salvador one, going to be an interesting one to watch. I noticed something this morning that someone from the IMF has already come out and started questioning the legality of it. I don't know how you question the legality of a kind of a sovereign nation, kind of, this Congress voting something into law. But anyway, I'm sure it won't be the last we hear of it, and we see how kind of strings are pulled from the outside. But as you say, it's a kind of fascinating development in its own right. And,
well, I think it's going to be interesting that the world is going to get a rundown on how companies operate currencies. Like most of the globe doesn't understand how the US dollar works. And now they're going to start looking into, how does inflationary currency work? I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I know. We've got a lot of that one to come. Look, let's jump on into some of the technicals that you've been looking at this week. Let's start with Bitcoin sentiment. Let's look at this chart.
Yeah, so Bitcoin sentiment is a great one. You can truly see how topsy-turvy that is. So you can see kind of the spike whenever the seizure news broke, and then you can see the dip whenever kind of retail ended up, realizing that, hey, this is actually really bearish. So that was actually a really interesting one to see the divergence of sentiment and price action, because retail did think that that news was bullish, and it ended up being bearish for a multitude of reasons. So that was interesting to see just how price reacted in that time. But then right when that El Salvador news broke, you saw it was right when the trough of sentiment happened, and then price and sentiment began to skyrocket. Now sentiment's been steady bullish. Now it's not as bullish as it was before. I think, obviously everyone's coming off that high from the El Salvador news, but Bitcoin is still bullish on sentiment. And then if we look at the technicals, we've got a really good formation. I don't want to dig into that too quickly, but basically sentiment and price action closely correlated. Great news for Bitcoin after 3 weeks of just bad gross news. So I think Bitcoin is really turning another leaf here. I think it's going to probably rise in dominance too if this price action continues to occur.
Yeah. I mean, I think, last couple of weeks we've looked at this 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we're talking about this $35,000 band of support. We've kind of been gyrating around it, tested the kind of up towards the 200-day moving average that everyone's keeping a close eye on, because we're still trading below that. We had that sharp, bit of nervy action in the market earlier in the week as we dipped back down towards its recent lows, still hovering around that midway point. So definitely an undecided market at this stage. As we know, the longer that continues, maybe the sharper any breakout will be in one direction or the other. So that's Bitcoin, and you think that maybe sentiment's changing between the two. What's this looking like on this Ethereum chart?
Yeah, so Ethereum is, compared to Bitcoin, just not looking good. I think that's just the easiest way to say it. So we saw what Bitcoin sentiment looked like, closely tied with price. We had a nice variance. You could tell that news was, people were reacting to news. You could look at Bitcoin price action and say, 30K level looks thick. We've got a good formation. And then you look at Ethereum and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a sea of red right now, and this is just not good. So after the Ethereum 2.0 news broke, the delay news, I should say, basically just sentiment just plummeted. Trading volume plummeted, I think, by double digits, meaning that interest in trading Ethereum just kind of lost its luster, which is what we saw with Bitcoin 2 or 3 weeks back. And then, coupled with that news, everyone's like, this is going to just bolster the L1 competition. So Solana, Polkadot, Tron, the rest of them, and I'm going to get to name, and I'm sure people will remind me in the comments, but that whole focus is going to shift. So I think, I've got a bit of a theory that Ethereum is going to be kind of fall out of the limelight, but I think development is still going to happen. So I think even though the traders outlook is low, that just means that it won't have as much trading activity. But I think if you're a fundamental investor, I think, if Ethereum does slide into the levels that we'll talk about in a second, I think it's a really good level to pick it up if you're developing on Ethereum, if you're looking to build the RC20 assets. Even though sentiment's low, that could just create cheaper Ethereum for a longer term value for someone else.
Mm-hmm. So this isn't trading advice, but maybe shorting Ethereum and long a basket of some of its potential competitors. Trade that as a spread.
The worst trade idea in the world, given where we're currently sitting.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that money is going to rotate somewhere else. Because L1 investors are going to continue to be L1 investors. They're not just going to move all of their money elsewhere. So expect the competition to heat up, at least on the price chart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other thing that keeps or brings back into play for Ethereum is it sucks it back into the whole ESG argument and the energy consumption, because the longer that takes for them to migrate, the longer Ethereum is also burning down.
It's true. Bitcoin has had all the proof of work kind of, hit jobs on it, but, Ethereum is still proof of work right now. So,
yeah. Okay. And let's look at this last chart then, just on the technicals for Ethereum.
Yeah, I think this is an important one to look at. There's not a whole lot to glean from the chart other than just looking at potential price levels. So you can see the white line, in the 2K range, and that's basically just resistance. You can see two hard hits on that and rejections, which is basically a double top. And you don't want to see a double top on the daily. So right now we're just kind of reacting off that. The candle formations don't look that good. Really having looked at the markets for 3-4 years, this is not something you want to see. You can see on the right side, the volume is looking a lot more thick in the $1,800 range down to, I think, almost $1,400, $1,600. That's basically tells me that a bunch of people are stacking their buys in case, Ethereum does, throw up and drop, $300, $400, $500. That's where they're going to buy. So if you are shorting, 1,800, not a bad target. If you are looking to buy more, 1,800, not a bad target. It's never guaranteed, but right now I think a lot of money is going to rotate into Bitcoin because I think Bitcoin is going to be the sexy trade. And you can see kind of what's happening with gold and a few other commodities. Ethereum is not going to get as much attention. It's a competitor as well, but don't count Ethereum out just because of this price action. Things have a funny way of changing right when you think, they're dead. So I would watch this chart closely and come back to it around $1,800, $1,900 if you're a Ethereum investor.
Okay. Good one to keep an eye out on for the end of the week. Nick, thank you for joining us as always. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was fun. Talk soon.
Cheers.